Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the professor, and this is the moment of truth. For the longest time, we've been told to believe all men. That sounds good so long as the woman is telling the truth, but there seems to be some inconsistencies with how the white media treats these accusations. It confuses me. Honestly, I don't get it. For example, Chris Noth and Chris Cuomo. Personally, I don't have anything against Chris Cuomo, but let's be bluntly honest. If this guy wasn't the son of a former governor of New York, do you think that this guy would be doing anything other than sweeping the halls at CNN? Andrew Cuomo probably would have gotten somewhere in politics, but he certainly wouldn't become New York governor. You have a famous, somewhat photogenic TV personality from a politically connected family. Politics, celebrity, media. With Chris Cuomo, you check off a lot of boxes, but the white media didn't seem interested in checking off any. The white media should have been crawling all over this guy, with the attorney general asking accusers to come forward. But they're not. No breathless speculation by the white media about civil suits against the Cuomos. They're not making it a point to put that out over the airwaves day after day, which is part of how the white media signals or encourages something that they want to see happen. Where's the CNN report entitled "The Case Against Cuomo"? Okay, well, maybe that would embarrass Jeff Zucker and the suits, but at least MSNBC might pick it up, right? Hell, even the trash over at Fox News haven't done a report like that. They do the usual drive-by insults and then move on. Well, I suppose that after Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly, the folks at Fox don't want anyone asking if there might be anyone else there who needs to be investigated. Let sleeping dogs lie, I suppose. But on a side note, you notice how nobody's making any chatter about Jeffrey Toobin getting his old job back? Where's the flurry of female employees at CNN saying, hey, we don't feel safe around this guy. He's obviously a pervert. I mean, this guy is such a freaking degenerate lowlife, he can't even wait until he gets off the Zoom call before he decides to toy with himself. And apparently none of the female employees at CNN have a problem with that. Okay. And then there's Chris Noth. In the 1980s, there were a number of actors who owed their careers to the fact that they had a passing resemblance to Christopher Reeves. Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander Riker on Star Trek The Next Generation, was one, and Chris Noth was another. That's how he got on Law & Order, Sex and the City, and most recently, The Equalizer. Being on a show entitled Sex and the City, and with his character's name being Mr. Big, shouldn't there be wall-to-wall segments from the white media with psychologists analyzing this and saying Chris Noth clearly was acting out some predatory impulse? Why, look at the name of his character. They'd be drawing all of those lines ordinarily, wouldn't they? No speculation about civil suits either. Where's the CNN report entitled "The Case Against Chris Noth"? How about the former CEO of CBS, Molester Moonves, who was accused by multiple women of sexual assault? Say, remember how the police were investigating all those accusations against Moonves and how the DA was on TV asking any women who had accusations to come forward? Remember how all those laws got changed and how corporations changed the way their executive compensation packages were structured because of Moonves? Me neither. I also don't recall anybody in the white media going after Julie Chen when she would repeatedly get on television boasting about her last name. All of a sudden, she was no longer Julie Chen anymore. Now she's Julie Chen Moonves. How could she stand beside a man who had been accused by numerous women of sexual assault over the course of decades? How could she do that? Nobody calling her out. Nobody's saying that she needs to go too if she's going to stand with them. Nobody's saying that there should be any penalties for standing by this particular sexual predator. And nobody running around making a crusade out of suing Moonves into oblivion. The white media makes a big deal that Moonves didn't get the $120 million severance package that he allegedly wanted. But you know what? That doesn't really mean much. You want to know why? Just take a look at how much Moonves was making as the head of CBS. According to the Wrap, Moonves was given over $69 million in compensation in 2017, almost $70 million worth of compensation in 2016, almost $57 million in 2015, over $57 million in 2014, almost $67 million in 2013, $62 million in 2012, $69 million in 2011, Over 57 million in 2010, over 43 million in 2009, 32 million in 2008, over 36 million in 2007, and over 28 million in 2006. By the way, Les Moonves didn't just come to CBS in 2006. 2006 was just when he became the CEO. Before that, he had been co-chief operations officer, and he got paid $20 million in 2005 for that. We don't have the figures on what he was paid before that because a lot of that wasn't released. Now, according to the white media, in total, CBS has paid Les Moonves somewhere in the neighborhood of $700 million during his time there. That's almost $750 million. Moonves' final year with CBS was 2018. He was given $47 million in total compensation, but because of the way that he got kicked out the door, he wound up having to surrender most of it, so he walked away with a measly $12.5 million. This for the man who had brought so much ill repute on CBS, this for a man who was an accused sexual predator, this for a man who did so much damage to the careers of so many other people. And they let him leave with $12.5 million in compensation after all he had done to the company, for the company. Les Moonves became a mega millionaire off of CBS. Over $700 million that he received during his time there. And there have been a number of white media headlines in the early aughts about the fact that this man was making tens of millions of dollars at a time when a lot of CEOs wouldn't pay anywhere near that. But those accusations didn't stick to Moonves, just like the sexual assault accusations haven't been allowed to stick to him either. $700 million this worm was given by the company he was in charge of. Basically, that's what he paid himself. And just to put that in perspective for you, Bill Cosby is estimated to only be worth $400 million. And unlike Moonves, there's never been a question about whether or not Bill Cosby earned his pay or whether or not he was being overpaid. Everybody knew why he was getting paid what he got. Moonves, on the other hand, hey, I'm the CEO, I get to influence how much I'm paid, and this is how much I think I've earned for the year. But who did the white media drag? Better yet, who did they believe? One of Cosby's accusers is the lifelong drug addict and serial perjurer Janice Dickinson. And that reprobate went on Howard Stern's show and bragged that she had had sex with over 1,000 men. During the Cosby trial, she had been caught perjuring herself due to the conflicting account that she wrote in one of her fiction book memoirs, as opposed to what she was claiming on the stand. And yet the white media didn't look and say, at the very least, maybe we shouldn't believe her. No, we believe all women. Now, when someone makes an accusation, the first thing you're supposed to do is to consider the source. But for some strange reason, with some of these other guys, that doesn't seem to apply. Lena Dunham is a self-professed feminist. I can believe that. Feminism is an offshoot of white supremacy. It's the white female power movement. Basically, white women competing with white men to see which of them will hold the whip used to beat us. Now, as you all know, Lena Dunham had her little toilet bowl show Girls on HBO, and one of the writers for her show is a guy named Murray Miller. Aurora Perrineau, who is the daughter of actor Harold Perrineau, accused Miller of sexually assaulting her. Well, being the good little feminist that she is, Lena Dunham immediately distanced herself from Murray. She removed his name from all credits on the show, publicly denounced him, gave her deepest sympathies to Aurora Perrineau, and said, "Believe all women." Right? Right? Wrong. Almost before Miss Perrineau had even finished making her accusation, Lena Dunham was sending press releases to the white media like The Hollywood Reporter, telling them that, quote, "While our first instinct is to listen to every woman's story, our insider knowledge of Murray's situation makes us confident that, sadly, this accusation is one of the 3% of assault cases that are misreported every year. We stand by Murray, and this is all we'll be saying about this issue." Wow. We went from believe all women to we stand by the accused in 0 seconds flat. Even without the baggage of Me Too, Lena Dunham already has a horrible reputation for being a racist. She used her show to lampoon and ridicule black people every chance she got. That heifer wears her anti-black racism like a badge of honor. But when it comes to the 3% of false accusations, Lena Dunham's an expert on that one. You'll recall that a few years ago, Lena Dunham was at a gala party where some real celebrities, people who actually accomplished something with their lives, were there. One of them being Odell Beckham Jr. And Lena Dunham, who always wants to make sure that she's getting digs in at black people in general and black men in specific every chance she gets, when she went on a radio program, she started saying that Odell Beckham Jr. made her feel so bad, made her feel so objectified because he ignored her and wouldn't look in her direction. Quote, it was so amazing because it was like he looked at me and he determined I was not the shape of a woman by his standards. He was like, that's a marshmallow, that's a child, that's a dog. It wasn't mean, he just seemed confused. The vibe was very much like, do I want to F it? Is it wearing yep, it's wearing a tuxedo. I'm going back to my cell phone. It was like we were forced to be together, and he literally was scrolling Instagram rather than have to look at a woman in a bow tie. Now that's what she
Just
wrote.
like a dude.
We were forced to be together.
This
He
bitch
was
crazy.
like, he didn't say one word to her, didn't even look in her direction. But she's sitting here with this entire imagined scenario that was going on in that
Oh, the
empty
bitch
water
lying.
on
That's
her
not an
shoulders.
imagination. That's a
And then
lie.
she also went on to mention attempting to grind my A on Michael B. Jordan.
Grind
Lena
her
Dunham
ass.
is exactly the kind of racist white woman who runs around making up rape lies about black men. She's precisely the kind of garbage that does that. So she makes up all of this objectification by black men, all of this she didn't feel comfortable because a black man wouldn't look in her direction, and then she turns right around talking about how she's trying to grind on Michael B. Jordan. And again, Lena Dunham, she got her contract with HBO. They let her stay on the air for years with this racist crap. I guess it becomes a little bit more clear why HBO was so interested in giving Issa Rae a show, doesn't it? They both draw from the exact same well. When Lena Dunham got called out on it, she went on Twitter to dismiss the criticism as just being the outrage machine. But when the machine refused to turn off, she decided to go on Instagram and gave a feeble, non-apology apology, saying, I would never intentionally contribute to a long and often violent history of the over-sexualization of black male bodies, as well as false accusations by white women towards black men, except that's exactly what she did. Her show is nothing more than a non-stop parade of anti-black racism. She contributed intentionally to the long and violent history of accusations by white women against black men, but she also contributed to the long and violent American tradition of wholesale dismissing black women's claims of sexual assault. But I wonder why it happened in this case. I wonder why it is that she felt that she had to go to Murray Miller's defense. Perhaps if we look at the instances where black women have made accusations of sexual assault and see how the white media treated those, we might be able to tease a clue or two out of that. Daniel Holtzclaw raped dozens of black women. And yet right now you got Juju Chang and Michelle Malkin trying to see if they can wage a media offensive to get him out of prison. They're desperately hoping that if they can manufacture enough puff pieces about him, that some appellate court will get on code and let him go to send a racial message to black people. So far, their pathetic efforts haven't worked, but notice that Juju Chang's career hasn't taken a hit because she's reinvented herself as an apologist for a serial rapist. The same white media who said Cosby must be guilty because this many women can't be wrong, they're not saying dozens of black women can't be wrong for some reason. None of them are taking Juju Chang to task. None of them are speaking up. They get bold when it comes to saying that black women can't be believed. Nobody even requires them to write a retraction. Their careers take no damage. Judd Apatow, Bill Maher, and the rest of the late-night washed-up funny men don't demand to know how Lena Dunham can stand by a man accused of sexual assault. Nobody asks how Julie Chen can stand by a man accused of sexual assault. Nobody demands to know why Juju Chang is supporting and giving a platform to a serial rapist. No one brings up the obvious racial impropriety of Juju Chang trying to glorify a rapist who attacked dozens of black women, especially when her husband Neil Shapiro has been accused of operating the TV station he runs with a clear anti-black bias. With R. Kelly and Bill Cosby, the white media goes to all lengths to connect dots that aren't even there. But with these other examples, they suddenly become incapable of doing even basic research. Yet this is the same white media who gives platforms to anyone who attacked Camille Cosby or Felicia Rashad for stating the obvious about the fake accusations against Cosby. And most recently, we had Ghislaine Maxwell's trial. People had been asking if she would roll over on all the rich and powerful men she'd come into contact with, but she never did. A lot of people are still hoping that maybe something will come of it, but Julie Brown, the woman who broke the Epstein story for the Miami Herald in the first place, she had a different take on it.
So it remains to be seen whether prosecutors are going to pursue any of those cases. I don't think they will because, quite frankly, they happened so long ago. And this case with Maxwell was very challenging for them because, memories fade. It was very difficult, I think, for the victims to come back all these years and talk about something. Their memories of dates and specific events and who was there was very, foggy at times, which made this case very challenging. So, if you start trying to track down other people, I think it's going to get harder and harder to go after them.
It happened so long ago. Memories fade. Prosecutors will be reluctant. Hell, she was making the defense's case before there's even a trial. I don't recall anyone saying that about Bill Cosby or R. Kelly. I wonder why that is. Is there some sort of commonality that all of the powerful men who Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were cavorting with, something that they all had in common? It's a mystery. But you have the woman who broke the Epstein story, who has transitioned from believe all women to it's really irrelevant now. So we're making excuses for not even trying to put cases on these guys? Does anyone remember how the authorities were making excuses for how they couldn't go after Cosby because it was so long ago and memories fade and a jury probably wouldn't believe the accusers? Me neither. And Epstein wasn't the only example. While the white media was wasting airtime on washed-up has-been Rose McGowan, they totally ignored that an A-list actress, Lupita Nyong'o, who actually does have a career, has accused Harvey Weinstein of sexually harassing her in 2011. They treated Nyong'o as if her accusation didn't matter, because to them it didn't. Their narrative was clear. We don't want anyone to think that the accusation of a black woman had anything to do with Weinstein's fall from grace or with any subsequent litigation that might arise. On a side note, Rose McGowan was having a sexual affair with director Robert Rodriguez, which explains how she got cast in Grindhouse. But that affair led to the destruction of Rodriguez's marriage. Now, obviously, Robert Rodriguez is as responsible as Rose McGowan for the wreckage of his marriage. More so since he was married and had children, so he had more to lose than a single, childless would-be social climber like McGowan. But my point is, Rose McGowan is the last person to be talking about sexual morality. Well, aside from Lena Dunham. Yet nobody points this out. Her sexual past is off limits, a courtesy that was denied to Daniel Holtzclaw's rape victims. I have to wonder, are there any black women who the white media believes? Actually, there was one I can recall, Lily Bernard. She was one of the model actress whatevers who accused Bill Cosby, and this woman had an entire makeover to try to make herself look more ethnic, I suppose. But she understood her part in all this. The white media immediately pounced on the chance to put her in front of the camera, calling her the Black Cosby Accuser. She was their crash dummy, there to give them a shield they could hide behind when people pointed out the obviously racist nature of the prosecution. But the white media didn't ignore Lily Bernard's accusations or say that she was one of the 3% who lie. She presented absolutely no evidence to back up her claims. She was attacking a man who all the society knew, and not just some hack writer for a schlock-fest unfunny TV show on HBO. Yet the white media couldn't wait to report on Lily Bernard, and none of them criticized her accusation or even bothered to vet it. That's why I'm so confused about this whole believe all women thing. The white media's standard seems to keep changing. Or does it? Because I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, if we try hard enough, we could find the common thread that seems to determine who the white media thinks we ought to believe and who it's okay to not believe. Based on the white media's own reporting, here's what we know for sure. If a black woman accuses a white man, you can't believe all women. That's part of the 3% who lie. If a white woman accuses a white man, we can't believe all women because it was too long ago and Memories fade over time. Some women are opportunists or jealous of the man's success because their own careers didn't go anywhere or the case will be too hard to prove. But if a white woman, a black woman, or any woman at all accuses a black man, no matter how long ago, how clearly false the accusation is, or how obvious it is that they're lying, well, we must believe all women. Okay, now I think I got it. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Black Johnson, Anthony Cooper, Rose Arnold, Sabrina, and Sean Floraval. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.